My dad has a large 6-bedroom cabin deep within the forest just outside a quiet town called Bohem. It has a population of about 8,000 residents there, obviously. They have their own fire station, police headquarters, hospital and schools, and a college and so forth. But anyway, I have 3 weeks coming up this month, and my intentions are to take them and go stay at my dad's cabin for a while, maybe do a little hunting, and perhaps a little hiking while I'm there. I'd rather make the most of the duration whilst I'm there and have a drink or two. I hope the electrics still work at the cabin. They did when I was last down there, about a year or so ago, that is. I had a long drive ahead of me. I have a dog also. She's a crossbreed, Staffy and Collie. She's coming along for the ride, and I also know that she is amazing company. She's a very beautiful dog, loving and loyal, and also very protective too. I've packed some extra steaks so Rogue and I can have plenty to eat whilst we were both down there. Extra water containers and other bits and bobs. Oh, and my top-of-the-range camera. I fed Rogue before we left and packed our things in the car. I checked if the house was locked up tight, switches off, plugs out, lights off. Also, apart from the light with the timer connected to it, which goes on 3 times a day, morning, noon and night, so people would think we were still there, inside. I gently grabbed Rogue by her lead and collar and motioned her gently into the car on the back seat. I then got into the car myself and gently turned the key to start the engine, ready to go. "We're off," I turned and said to Rogue, with a smile all over my face, then gently patted her on the head and stroked her chin calmly and gently, and off we both went on our journey to my father's cabin. I couldn't wait to get there. Peace and tranquility for at least 2 great weeks. We were nearly there, still driving. I looked into my rearview mirror and saw that Rogue was fast asleep. Bless her, I dare not wake her. Besides, she looks comfortable and so peaceful there, just lying there snuggled up on the back seats, wrapped up warm and cosy, so waking her up was a definite no. I have converted the back of the car with a tray for her biscuits, her meat and her water, so if she felt hungry while she was awake or thirsty, she can help herself. I've had her since she was a pup. She's one of the best things in my life, as well as my 2 girls, who mean the world to me and more. Suddenly, Rogue had awoken. Lucky she was in time, because we had arrived at the cabin. Time to get our things and fit in, maybe. Get a fire going. Come on, Rogue, let's go see. Rogue happily trotted beside me as we walked up to the door. I found the spare key where it always was, inside a gap behind the doorframe. I inserted the key and turned it, grabbed the handle, and we both went inside. It was warm and cosy. As we got a little further inside, I noticed the fire had already been made and lit. But by whom? I gave my dad a ring, and he answered straight away. "How's the fire, son?" "So it was you, Dad? You could have let me know. Gee." "Your mother and I thought it would be a surprise." and besides, it can get real cold down there, so a nice warm cabin for when you arrived we thought was quite suffice. And we've left plenty of extra food and water also. That was your mother's idea. And of course fuel for the generator, just in case it runs low, okay? It's always good to have spare of everything. Anyway, gotta go. See you in a couple of weeks, son. Okay? Stay safe. We both love you. Okay, Dad. You too. And thanks for everything, really. And say hi to Mum. That's fine, he replied, and abruptly hung up the phone. I forgot to bring my rifles. But that's okay. My parents had their own, so I can use theirs instead. They won't mind. They never do, as long as I clean them after I've used them and put them back in their proper places afterwards and hang them up again. They didn't mind. We both unpacked our things. Well, I did anyway. Rogue just watched, as she always does, bless her. When everything had been done, I made us both a bite to eat. God, I was hungry, and I can tell Rogue was as well. Next moment, she was sitting there by my side, looking at me with those deep, big brown eyes. I knew exactly what she wanted. And as always, I passed her my last mouthful of my beautiful, juicy steak. We then both went outside and chopped some logs to keep the fire going inside rather than do it later, because it gets real cold outside at night, too cold. There's a large oak tree near the cabin where I put the chopped logs, and I noticed these deep claw marks embedded down the bark of the tree. They were quite high, and they were really deep. I know it couldn't have been a bear. The marks were too high. This thing must have or would have had to have been at least 7-8 feet tall. We both walked back to the warm, cosy cabin, sat down and cuddled up and turned on the TV to watch a movie or something. Suddenly the news came on. It was an emergency broadcast, something about a wild animal roaming the deepest depths of Bohem Forest, and the location was not far from where the cabin was. At that time this took place, I decided to head to bed. Rogue followed me, as she does. The bedroom is large and also has a large balcony, so you can stand outside and breathe in the fresh air and take in the beautiful view. Suddenly there was a loud knocking at the door, so we both ran down the stairs and answered it. It was the local police. Hi, can I help you, officer? No, he said, with a deep voice, holding his hat in his hand. We're knocking on everyone's door to tell them to lock everything up, to make sure everything's safe. That's all, sir. You did watch the news, too, right? Yes, of course, officer, I did. Something about an animal roaming the forests. That's right, sir. It's killed 3 people so far. It just tore them apart and had eaten most parts of their bodies. Poor souls. What kind of creature could have done that? I said. A bear, maybe a wolf, he replied. The footprints were too large for a bear or wolf. Besides, this creature, whatever it is, walked into the forest on 2 legs, then fell onto all 4s and disappeared into the darkness of the forest. How's that possible? I asked. That's what we're trying to find out, sir, he replied. And when we do, we'll either catch it, or, if we have to, we'll have to kill it. But that's only as a last resort, I assure you. I asked the officer what he thought it might be, what type of creature. His reply was shocking. He said it must have been at least 7 to 8 feet tall, and that's on 2 legs, a wolf-like creature, because of the prints it left behind. But we're not dealing with a normal sized wolf. No, this thing is bigger. Let me show you something, officer. A moment, please. Follow me. Look at these marks. Who or what could have made them? I don't know, the officer replied. Do you have a rifle, just in case you need to use it? Yes, sure, I replied. They belong to my parents, I said. Why do you ask? Well, sir, if things as big as that, and it sounds big, and the evidence shows that it is, then you'll need it close by 24/7, in case you need to protect yourself. And your dog. And sir? Yes, I replied. By the look on his face. He didn't look at all pleased. By the look on this oak tree, the creature's already been here. It's gone now, but it may come back. Okay, officer. Thank you. I'll keep that in mind. You better, he replied. After the officers drove off, I ran in with Rogue, not too far behind me. As she ran inside, I closed and locked the door behind us. I loaded my father's shotgun and my mother's rifle, and we both went back upstairs. I had a flask of coffee and a couple of beers, and sat on a chair on the outside balcony, locked and loaded, with some spare ammo by the side of my flask and beers. Suddenly Rogue started to growl and whine in the direction of the forest. What's up, girl? What do you hear? What do you see? He just sat there, never leaving my side, staring out into the darkness of the dense forest. The moon was bright and full tonight. I have security lights in the front of the cabin, so if anything or anyone came within 8 feet of the outside door, they'd automatically turn on and stay on for 5 to 10 minutes, so I could definitely see it, or them, coming, no problem. Suddenly I heard a rustle coming from the line of the forest. It made a low guttural growl. Its footsteps sounded heavy by the sound that it was making. It was big. Suddenly it came from out of the shadows from which it came. Rogue began to whine. I carried her inside and closed the balcony doors to keep her safe inside, and went back outside to see if the creature was still there. And it was. I readied my rifle, and my shotgun also at my side, just in case I needed it. I looked through the scope, and there it was. It was big, hairy, broad shoulders. Its body looked like a man, but its head and legs was that of a wolf, and a big wolf at that. Jesus Christ, it's a goddamn werewolf. I know they shouldn't exist, but there it was. There, right in front of me, staring up at me with its angry, glowing eyes, which were a golden yellow, and his teeth were huge, just like you see in the movies. I steadily aimed and fired a shot at the thing, but the creature just stood there still, staring at me. Grinning and drooling, suddenly it leapt up towards me. I grabbed the shotgun and fired at it. BAM! Straight for its chest, and it fell solidly onto the balcony floor. But it was still alive. Somehow. Why? I don't know. Oh my God. It was changing into something else. Its bones, muscles and flesh was twisting and ripping and cracking. I couldn't keep my eyes open. But when I opened them, there lied my father in a giant pool of his own blood, dying. "Thank you, son. Thank you," he then said before he died. "Beware the next full moon."